Now, you know, one of the reasons I was drawn to Edith was because she always writes about people who are caught in the expectations of society, and those expectations just don't jive with who these people are, and they fight it throughout the book. A lot of them don't win, unfortunately. Edith herself, however, really overcame what expectations there were for women, and wonderfully. She wrote 50 books in her lifetime. I mean, she was she was a genius, she was prolific, she was an incredible writer who still speaks to us today. And the reason, that she speaks to us, of course, to me, is because as a woman growing up in the 50s and 60s, I too felt there were expectations of what I might become: a librarian, a nurse, those are all fine professions, a teacher, but I didn't want to be those things, And I felt that, certainly women of that era, we were fighting against what people said we needed to be. So that's one of the reasons I related to her. Anyway, at this point in her life, the one thing she hadn't succeeded at, was love. She had a very unhappy, loveless, sexless marriage. And she had never felt physical passion in her life. She had actually felt something was wrong with her. And so at the age of 45, she met a young journalist in Paris, and she fell madly in love with him. She kept diaries. She wrote letters to him that still all exist, because she begged him to burn them, and he wouldn't do it. He kept them till he died. And all these things are available. I have so much information about where she was literally every day of her life. It's incredible. She wrote 6 letters a day, and she didn't have a computer to do it either. In any case, she had this love affair, and it changed everything about her life. It was ripple effect to everybody in her life. Her husband, Teddy, who loved her very much, but was just ill-suited to her. He was, he loved being on a farm. He was not an intellectual. And Anna Ballman, who was her closest companion, I believe must have been terribly affected by this relationship. So I'm going to read you just a few scenes to get a taste of it. The first scene I'm going to read you is a scene that takes place at the Mount, which is her house in Lenox. If you've never been there, it's not that far away. Go. It is unbelievable this time of year. She had gardens that will take your breath away. She designed every bit of the house and garden, so go see it. And what happened was that she's been flirting with Morton Fullerton all winter in Paris, and she's come back to the Mount in Massachusetts for the summer, as she always did, and he said, I might come see you. And she's gotten a letter, and I have that letter, that says, I'm going to come see you, and he does. And it's October now, and it snowed the day he came, which is very unusual even in Massachusetts in October. And so he's come, and they've had dinner together. She has another guest who's now gone to bed, and they're alone. And they step out on the terrace at the mountain, just this big, gorgeous terrace overlooking her astonishing gardens. And this is what happens. The scent of the pines reaches their noses the moment the French doors are opened. The shock of cold is vitalizing. With the heavy clouds mostly gone, the stars gleam like ice chips in the sky. Ghostly outlines trace the hedges in the gardens and the lindens in the lime walk below. Edith relishes the sound of her feet crunching on the 1.5 inch of snowfall. What a perfect night, he tells her. It makes me think of my childhood. The air here is an elixir. I can see why you chose this place. Yes, it's very special. He gestures to the garden. In this light, it looks black and white, like a steel engraving. How accurate and clever, she thinks, noting that the scene does indeed seem devoid of color. His voice grows intimate. I almost didn't come here, you know. Why? The train schedule was impossible. I had to change trains 3 times. It would have been easier to go directly to my parents. What made you change your mind? You. He turns to her. I wanted more of your company. She feels an exquisite expansion of her lungs. It's not unlike the one and only time she was allowed to take a roller coaster ride as a child. Her mother had a headache, so her father took her for the afternoon to the Frascati Gardens in Paris. She can still recall the big sign with its gold and red letters, Le Chemin de Centrifuge. We'll keep this a secret from your mother, her father had said. Oh, how special Edith felt that day. They'd had to wait in line in the sun for ages. She remembers her trembling, childish anticipation as they were ushered into their little carriage and strapped in with leather straps. Her father put his arm around her and the tiny train began a slow, frightening ascent up the steel mountain. Are you afraid? Her father whispered in her ear. No, Papa, because I'm with you. And then at the top of the hill, they were looking out over all eternity. When the coaster descended, she had the sensation that her stomach dropped away, allowing her lungs to expand to 10 times their size. And this is exactly how she feels right now. The rush of air into her lungs leaves her speechless for a moment. I'm so pleased you decided to come, she finally manages to tell Fullerton, though her voice meters out breathy and soft. After being here, Edith, I shall never think of you the same. She shivers at the sound of her Christian name from his lips. No? Houses say so much about people, don't they? I've always thought so. Yes, I know you do. The way you describe houses speaks volumes about your characters. You even use house in your title of the House of Mirth. It's from Ecclesiastes, isn't it? Yes, sorry. So few people realize that. My father's a minister. I grew up with the Bible always at hand. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. Did I get it right? Well done, she says. He steps back on the terrace so he can see the house more fully. Now, if I were a reader and you were a character, I'd say this house belongs to an extraordinarily haunting woman at the peak of her life. Would you like me to tell you more? Yes, she says hesitantly. She has seen the world and delights in its bounty, but doesn't need to prove it to anyone. She brings together the classicism of New England with the sophistication of Europe. But there are secrets here, illusion, doors that look double on one side, but are in fact single on the other. I believe your life is rather like those doors. My life, she asks. She knows that she has grown crimson. Whatever do you mean? Edith, he says, and nothing more. She revels in the tingling feeling his words have generated. Does he know that she and Teddy are nothing to one another? That she is a free and single soul? The air is icy, the breeze picking up, the warmth between them is palpable. And what does your home in Paris say about you, she asks. It says I rent a few rooms from a landlady because I'm a poor, lowly journalist. He gently takes her elbow and turns her back so her eyes meet his. It says, I'd rather be at Edith Wharton's house. She hears her breath catch. Mr. Fullerton, it's late, she says too loudly. For a moment, he doesn't let go of her arm. They stand face to face in the snow alone, the fog of their breath blending and swirling together in the cold. And by the way, it's true, there are doors that look double on one side at the mount, but they're really single doors. And she did it because symmetry, she was really into symmetry. So. Now, though he's a charmer, Morton Fullerton was not a very nice man and had had many lovers of both sexes, mostly older people who were powerful, who were wealthy. He was drawn to fame really more than anything. And so after they have this romance in Paris all winter, she goes back to the Mount the following summer, and he starts to write her these wonderful letters, and then they just stop. And this was his M.O., unfortunately. Henry James said about him, he's really charming, but he's not a very nice man. So, although Henry was pretty fond of him himself. So Unfortunately, Edith's heart was really at that point, and there's more, but at that point terribly broken, and she's just beside herself. She's cabled him, she's written him, she can't get any news from him, and she's horrible to live with that summer. I mean, poor Anna, who all she wanted in life, she once told one of Edith's friends, all I want is to be a helpmeet to Edith and to be there when she needs me and make her life easier. And certainly in my novel, she starts snapping at Anna, making life very difficult for her. And in reality, she was sent away. Yet again, she kept sending Anna away. And this is how I think, perhaps, I don't have any evidence of it, that that this affair got in the way between their relationship, because most of the time she couldn't stand being without Anna. Suddenly Anna's going everywhere. So this scene is the following summer, and she calls Anna to the drawing room to talk to her. Edith sends one of the maids to bring Anna to the drawing room for tea. Nervously, Anna seats herself in the needlepoint bergère across from Edith. She can't bear to look up, so she stares at her hands, but her eyes are unseeing. Her heart is rattling in her chest like a motor car with a faulty engine. Would you like cake? Edith asks. No, I ate too much at luncheon. In truth, she ate nothing. The new cook is very good, isn't she? I think the food is the best we've had here since we've taken up at the Mount. Anna nods, still can't look up. If she sees Edith's face, will she see a gorgon before her? Will she turn to stone? Tani, she called her Tani. It was kind of like aunt in German. It was like a little childhood name she'd given her. Tani, I want to offer you something, Edith says. A present, really. I hope you'll hear me out and be open to it. Anna's nerves keep her from sitting still. Her legs jerk as though they wish to run. All winter while we were in Paris, you talked about how you wanted to get over to Germany, about your time there when you were young. Anna nods, but has a hard time remembering ever telling Edith that she wished to go back to Germany. Maybe she mentioned it once when they were talking about German poetry, but surely she didn't speak of it all winter, as Edith implies. I want to give you a gift of a trip abroad. I don't understand. We're quite fixed for money these days. It's rather stunning how well the books have done, especially The House of Mirth. It's such a success in France. Yes. I want to send you to Europe for the rest of the summer. Germany, Italy, wherever you like. I owe it to you. Now Anna raises her head and gazes on the woman she has known best in all her life. She's expecting to see an ugliness in her familiar face, but Edith simply looks like Edith. She's pale, and her mouth is sweet and kind as it was when she was a child, offering Anna a flower she picked from the field. You owe me nothing, Anna says. But I do. I owe you everything. In truth, I'm not much fun to be with right now. I'm not myself. I fear I've been unkind to you. I seem to irritate you, Anna ventures. It's not you. Everything irritates me right now. I'm suffering, and only you know why. But I don't know why. You haven't told me anything. You know the source of my suffering. I don't want to tell you what's happened. You'll only gloat. Anna's never been in favor of this relationship. Gloat. Anna is shocked. I could never gloat at your pain. I talked to Teddy about it. That's her husband. I talked to Teddy about it, and we both want to send you to Europe as a thank you. If you want, you can come back for the autumn for a bit and until we leave for France in the winter. Or you could stay the rest of the summer and autumn and meet us in Paris. That's another option. You don't owe me anything. I knew you'd be hard to persuade. I knew you'd fight me on this, but I want to do something nice for you, and I thought once you mulled it over, you'd be pleased. You needn't tell me now. Think it over. Talk to Gross. You could, of course, go back to Missouri. That would be fine as well. I just want to give you something, a trip, a gift. Teddy does too. You were so kind to him when he was ill. Far kinder than I was. He reminds me all the time. Anna says nothing. The offer lodges in her heart, radiating pain. And she's trying to sort out why. Because Edith can't bear the sight of her. How has it come to this? What have I done to make you want me to leave? Anna asks. There, she set it out for both of them to see. Oh no, you mustn't think of it that way. I'm happiest when I'm helping you. You know I am. But wouldn't you enjoy some time away, some time to see your childhood places? You have cousins in Germany. Imagine seeing Weimar again, Goethe's home, and Italy. You've always said you long to see Italy. We'll pay for the nicest sort of travel. Anna can see how beseeching Edith's eyes are. Do you really want me to go? Anna asks. I know you haven't been happy with my typing. It's not that. Heavens, it's not that. That was me being absurd. You weren't happy when I was gone last summer. Well, perhaps this time you could help me find a replacement, a temporary replacement that I could trust. If you were doing the choosing, well, the woman we had last summer was a nightmare. You send me away from Paris for the whole spring, then you send me away again. Perhaps you're through with me. I'd rather you just say so. You're not responsible for me. I could go back to teaching. I could find a place of my own in New York, like the apartment I had on 95th Street. I'm not afraid. Nonetheless, Anna can hear her voice quavering. No, Edith jumps up. I couldn't bear to lose you. You mustn't think that's what I want. I just need time. It's because I warned you about him. I wish I'd never told you what I knew. Oh, Tiny, why must he come between us? It isn't right. It isn't fair. It isn't. But there it is. Anna feels utterly exhausted. She would not have changed anything. Warning Edith was something she had to do. Sometimes friendships go bad, she tells herself. Relationships soften and rot like old fruit. They have their time and then they shrivel and grow putrid. She feels her shoulders shaking. She doesn't want to cry in front of Edith. She can't. Edith comes to Anna, kneels down before her. My beloved Tani, she says. Tears spill from Anna's eyes, making it hard to take in the woman who was once her dearest friend, her very heart. Edith reaches up and wipes a tear from Anna's cheek. You are like a mother to me, but sometimes when we are at our most foolish, we don't want our mothers to see. Don't you understand? Anna shakes her head. I don't judge you, she says. I worry for you, but I don't judge you. I judge myself, Edith says. I feel like a fool, and when I see you looking at me the way you do, I take this trip. Do it for me. You will enjoy it, you'll see. Perhaps one of your cousins can travel with you. Take this trip and make it the gift I intended to be. Get away from me before I hurt you. Edith reaches out and puts her arms around Anna's waist, settles her head in her lap just as she used to when she was a child, and Anna was her savior. Please, she begs, do it for me.